COVID-19 recovery, helping Hoosiers recover financially, physically, mentally, and socially through services provided by Community Action of Greater Indianapolis. Services include energy assistance, child care, family support, education, training programs, transitional housing, and food assistance. COVID-19 recovery.
Hi, I'm Kelly Vaughn, and welcome to COVID-19 Recovery, where we want to empower people and educate people as we recover from the pandemic. And I'm not sure if it's quite a recovery. I just read on the news this morning that there's another variant that's emerging that could cause a lot of problems for folks. So we always encourage you to be safe and be defensive and to take care of yourselves, because it's not quite over, but we certainly have made tremendous progress as things have opened up. But as you know, when the fall approaches, we start going back indoors and we're not outside as much. We could possibly see a surge again. So we just encourage viewers to be safe. Today's show, we're talking about recovering from domestic violence, which was a product, an increase in domestic violence, a product of the pandemic. And joining us is Julie Hensen, who is Vice President of Development for Coburn Place. Hi, Julie. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Man, before we get deep into the topic of domestic violence and how you all help victims, you have an event coming up, and we want to hit on that a couple of times during the interview so we can make sure that people know about it and that they can be a part of it.
Yes, the lemonade stand is coming up on July 15th. That's a Friday, and it will be on two sites. One is at Coburn Place at 604 East 38th Street, and one is on the Circle, actually on the lawn of Christ Church Cathedral downtown. And that will go from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then we have an event just for grown-ups at Hotel Tango from 5 to 9 p.m. called the Spiked Lemonade Stand.
Oh, nice. Okay. So tell folks what Coburn Place is.
Yes. So Coburn Place is about fresh starts, and we are about fresh starts for families and individuals that have experienced homelessness because of fleeing domestic violence. At Coburn Place, we offer compassionate support and housing choices to survivors of domestic violence. We have two main housing choices. One is in a flagship building that was an old elementary school. There are 35 apartments in that building, and clients initially start with a 9-month lease, but they could live rent and utility free for up to 2 years if that's the amount of time that they need. And then we have housing out in the community where we help with rent and utilities for up to 18 months for families to get back on their feet in whichever option works best for them.
Okay. So you said the word housing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there are a lot of things that victims of domestic violence go through and their families, but you mentioned housing. Mm-hmm. Talk about that. Why is housing the key part that you're addressing? Why is it, sounds like, the key problem? No?
That's such a great question. At Coburn Place, what we specialize in is this specific intersection, and it's an intersection between homelessness and domestic violence. So one thing we know about domestic violence is that it affects everyone across demographics, across socioeconomic levels, across gender, across sexual orientation. But for families and individuals that have a lack of resources, and especially a lack of resources around safe housing, homelessness is an incredible extra barrier to getting to safety and stability. And so the work that we do is really designed to give families who are experiencing homelessness the tools that they need to be able to stabilize, especially families that are homeless because of domestic violence. We know that a lack of resources, and specifically a lack of housing resources, is the number one reason why families aren't able to leave. And we know that 60% of women who are experiencing homelessness are experiencing homelessness because of domestic violence. And so that is the key, a reason that people are without a house. And so having a program and a service model that is really targeting and speaking to that intersection is a critical need in the city.
And then comes the question, and I'm not necessarily expecting you to have the answer, is to me too often, and if we're talking about women who are more often victims of domestic violence, I know men can be abused as well. And you wonder, do they have the same issues? That's a question too. It brings to my mind, oftentimes women are in those positions. Is it because they don't have, like, they're dependent upon that source, the person they are being abused by? You're nodding your head. I love it. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, survivors of domestic violence, a couple things. The first thing that you're really hitting on is that it looks different for everyone. Every relationship and every abusive relationship is unique. And so no two survivors are going to have the same past, just in the same way that no two survivors are going to have the same goals and dreams for their future. But one of the things that we see frequently is that financial abuse, nearly always, the statistic is 99% of the time, if you are experiencing sexual, physical, emotional abuse, you are also experiencing financial abuse. And financial abuse might include you're the breadwinner and you don't have access to any of the funds. Or it might include you aren't allowed to work. You aren't allowed to have the car or the house or the credit cards or anything in your name. And those things create this additional barrier to be able to stabilize. So I think that has been incredibly heightened as we see there be in the city a lack of affordable housing, as we see the pandemic heighten economic barriers, people being laid off in the initial months of the pandemic, being locked in the same house with abusers without any of those other spaces that you might normally have access to. I think we can look at those stressors as a real indicator for the surge of need that we've seen over the last 2.5 years.
Okay. My mother used to always say to me, always have your own. And it's interesting how you said, yes, having financial challenges can come in different shapes and forms. You can have the money and still not be able to get access to your own money. But that was something she always told me, because she was saying, if you ever got in a situation where someone would mistreat you, you need to be able to go.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes it takes 7 times before you actually go, but when you go, you need to be able to go, and you need to be able to support yourself. And so that's always kind of concerned me, especially as a young woman, that if I were in that situation, I have to be able to, fend for myself. I was always afraid of being too dependent on anybody.
And one of the things that we do at Coburn Place is we want to lower the need for that kind of concern of, do I need my abuser to provide diapers for my kids? Do I need my abuser to help me with my rent, help me with my car payment? We want to lower all of those barriers so that we can help lower that really scary statistic that it takes 7 times to leave for someone to leave for a final time. A lot of times the reason that statistic exists is because there isn't time and resources given to survivors to be able to stabilize on their own. So for instance, I'm fleeing, I have 2 kids, and I go to an emergency shelter. I'm experiencing financial abuse as well. I have 30 to 45 days to figure out everything, right? To figure out my mental health, to figure out finances, a place to live, a job, childcare, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's just not enough time. And so Coburn Place was born out of a study that the city did that said, what do survivors of domestic violence need? And what they found was that survivors need time and they need stable housing as a launching pad. From there, We want to be able to provide survivor-led tools, programs, and resources that are designed to empower, they're designed to help heal, and they're designed to give survivors back the dignity and autonomy that they deserve in their own life. And so having pantries full of food that survivors can access, having trips that we take to Thrifty Threads at 86 and Ditch to shop for clothes for free. All of these things are designed to do what you're talking about, help survivors have their own, right? Help survivors know, I got this. And if I don't have this, I don't have to go to my abuser to have that connection point again. Coburn Place is providing that to me while I begin my fresh start.
Okay. If you could quickly go over some of the programs that you have to help survivors.
Yes. So the first thing, like you've heard me say, is housing. We believe that until a survivor and their kids are housed safely and stably, they are not going to be able to focus on anything else. That is really where our programming begins. Once a survivor is housed safely, that is when that compassionate support and survivor-led care really steps in. So that includes therapy, support groups, pantry runs. That includes a team of advocates, a well-being advocate and a housing advocate who work side by side with that survivor to help learn what their goals and dreams are, how they define success, for example, and then what are those specialized tools that we can wrap around for them. So maybe budgeting, maybe education goals, maybe we have funding to help them repair their car so that access to work is easier for them. We have a whole host of mental and physical wellness as well. We have a fitness center on site, but we also have dance therapy and cycling and things like that that are really designed just to have mental wellness and physical wellness be available for survivors if that's part of the journey that they want to take. So it's really diverse. It's a vast program setting. And the reason for that is we're a healing center for survivors that believe that housing comes first and then healing is the key. And healing looks different for everyone. And so we want to be able to have a multitude of choices, a multitude of areas that survivors opt into as the best fit for them.
Okay. Want to go over the event again, if you could quickly tell us again about the Lemonade event you have coming on.
So one of the best parts of our programs is children's services. Mm-hmm. So families are coming to Coburn Place, and everything I've talked about has really centered on the adult survivor. But the kids have a unique experience of witnessing domestic violence, of the upheaval of experiencing homelessness, of the fear and uncertainty that comes with this chapter in their lives. And the center heart of our services and our programs are the kids. And what we want is for kids to be able to be kids and have a childhood. And so our children's services program is meant to be a space for them to have all the parts of childhood that one might think of: make friends, have fun, learn new things, explore interests. And the lemonade stand supports the kids at Coburn Place. It supports them with basic needs like back to school shoes, back to school uniforms, school supplies. It supports them for things like prom dresses or soccer cleats or field trip expenses throughout the year. All those kind of unexpected expenses that come with just being a kid and wanting to feel confident and have access to the joy of your own childhood. But it also goes to our children's program in general. So making sure that we can take field trips as a group, making sure that we can go to, a few weeks ago, the kids went to Build-A-Bear and everyone got to make a bear. We want to be able to provide those special core memory moments for kids. And the lemonade stand is a huge critical part of that. So funds that are raised through the lemonade stand go directly into children's needs and the environment that children need at Coburn Place to thrive, feel safe, reconnect with their parents, and with their own sense of safety.
Okay. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about the lemonade stand and helping survivors get back on their feet again when we come back.
During the COVID-19 emergency, community action agencies are open and here to ensure the well-being of families across the country. For over 50 years, we've been delivering life-changing services, solutions, and stability.
Contact your local community action agency serving Boone, Hamilton, Hendricks, and Marion counties for help during the COVID-19 emergency. We can assist with masks, hand sanitizers, food, shelter, transportation, and more. Apply today.
And we're back, and we welcome you all back. And we're talking to Julie Hensen, who is the Vice President of Development at Coburn Place here in Indianapolis. And we're talking about domestic violence, helping survivors, and also their big lemonade stand event they have coming up. You know, we talked about that, but what if someone cannot make it to the actual event and would like to give? To help out?
That's a great question. There are so many ways to give that don't involve drinking an actual glass of lemonade. You can go to coburnplace.org/lemons and have a virtual cup of lemonade. Again, all of those proceeds go directly to the kids and kids programming at Coburn Place. So coburnplace.org/lemons is a really easy way. That the site is live from today, July 1st to July 15th. And we hope that people can swing by and have either a real drink or a virtual drink to help the kids at Coburn.
I love it. The virtual drink. That's what we do these days. I love it. It still tastes great either way. Either way. So what are the unique needs of children whose parents or guardians have experienced domestic violence? What do they go through, and how do you meet their needs?
This is such a great question. I think a lot of times when we think of domestic violence, we think of the abuser and the survivor, and we overlook the impact that this has on kids. It's like kids who experience and witness domestic violence, first and foremost, they've experienced trauma. And the kids that we work with have also experienced the trauma of being homeless and being in an upheaval and a disruption of their life. The scary statistic is that kids who witness domestic violence are more likely to repeat that cycle as adults, whether that is by abusing or by being abused. And so much of that is because we learn what's normal. So it's frequent that we will have adult survivors come to us, and it's only, a few months into a domestic violence support group that it kind of clicks for them. Oh, what I was experiencing was abuse, and I didn't realize it because it's what all the relationships around me growing up looked like. And so part of the important part about the children's service work we do is breaking that cycle and helping kids reconnect with their parents in a safe, healing way, and also helping them understand what healthy relationships look like. I think that the other part of this is that kids that experience abuse and witness their parents being abused spend a lot of their time worrying about their parents or about their siblings, and they start feeling like they're the adult. They provide safety for their mom, they provide safety for their brothers and sisters. And what we want is for kids to know that they're at Coburn Place and they're safe because their parent made a courageous decision to get them to safety, and that they don't have to worry about that anymore. What they get to have is a childhood, and they get to be a kid and have all the parts of being a kid that don't involve worrying about the safety of your immediate family.
Wow, that means kids grow up pretty quickly in situations like that. Um, just in case, and heaven forbid, but someone out there is watching now and they are in a situation that they're very uncomfortable with. They are experiencing domestic violence, whether it be physical or verbal. Um, how can they get help? How do they go about getting help from you?
Yes. If someone is watching this and they're experiencing abuse of any kind, the first thing to know is you are not alone, and you do not have to leave on anyone's terms but your own. It is so hard to leave, and it is a decision that you really have to plan and make sure is the right time for you and your kids. And making a safety plan and an exit plan is critical. If you're in immediate danger, the best thing to do is call 911 or go online to different domestic violence organizations. CoburnPlace.org can provide resources to you. While we aren't an emergency shelter, we do work very closely with emergency shelters to have referrals come into our organization. And so knowing that you are in control of your own destiny and you are someone who we want to empower and connect to resources, I think is really what I would want survivors to know watching this. You're not alone, and there is help out there for you. CoburnPlace.org is a great place to start.
Okay, so we have that information on the screen as well. You know, we were talking about children, and I ran into a situation of some children who I think it wasn't domestic violence, but their mother was on drugs, I guess, and she didn't have access to her children anymore. And what I noticed about the children when they were around is one of the older one, every time I would say, "Oh, you know, I'm going to make some eggs," she would run to the refrigerator and she starts doing things. I'm like, wait a minute, you do what I tell you to do. But a psychologist had told me that that child has been in an abusive situation, whether not necessarily domestic violence, but that's an abusive environment if one of your parents is on drugs.
Yeah.
But she was saying that she's probably accustomed to fending for herself, and it was driving me crazy. But when you said that, that reminded me of how children are impacted by domestic violence or parents who are abusing drugs.
Yeah, I think that one of the really hard to wrap your head around parts of abuse and the way that kids experience it is that the effects are so broad. A child who witnesses abuse might become an overachiever, a straight A student. They like do not step out of line, or they might become someone who acts out to get attention. They might be fending for themselves, or they might be, very internal and they're not able to do things on their own. And so, one of the core tenets of our services is that they're survivor led. And that goes with our children's services. We're kid led. And so it's really important to us to be able to look at an individual kid and be able to see the impact that domestic violence had on them and what is their path to healing. How do we illuminate that path to restore hope and healing for that child? We serve around 200 kids every year, and each of those children have a unique experience, unique dreams, unique skills, and we want to be able to not have a one-size-fits-all approach to what abuse has done to them and what healing looks like for them.
Okay, wow. Well, this has been really enlightening, and we appreciate you coming on and educating us about domestic violence and help for those who are going through that and solutions. And we appreciate what you do at Coburn Place. If you could again go over the details of the lemonade stand how people can participate, what's going to be happening, and if they can't attend, how they can give and support.
Yes. So the lemonade stand, you can check us out in person. We will be on July 15th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Coburn Place, 604 East 38th Street, or down on the Circle on the lawn of Christchurch Cathedral. If you're not able to do that, you can go to coburnplace.org/lemons and have a virtual cup of lemonade and still help support the kids and the kids program in Coburn Place. If you'd like an adult option, you can come join us at Hotel Tango in Fletcher Place from 5 to 9 p.m. on July 15th, or you can go to coburnplace.org/spike.
All right, and we've got the information on the screen there. We appreciate it so much. Julie Hensen, Vice President of Development for Coburn Place. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
During the COVID-19 emergency, community action agencies are open and here to ensure the well-being of families across the country. For over 50 years, we've been delivering life-changing services, solutions, and stability.
Serving Boone, Hamilton, Hendricks, and Marion counties, be sure to visit our website to learn about employment and education opportunities, food, housing, transportation assistance, and more. Apply today by calling 317-396-1800.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
$150/90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
Your blood pressure numbers could change your life. Lowering them could save you from having a stroke. If you've stopped your treatment plan, restart it or talk to your doctor about creating one that works better for you. Start taking the right steps at manageyourbp.org.
Now I'm, trying to get better, stronger than ever.
During the COVID-19 emergency, community action agencies are open and here to ensure the well-being of families across the country. For over 50 years, we've been delivering life-changing services, solutions, and stability.
Contact your local community action agency serving Boone, Hamilton, Hendricks, and Marion counties for help during the COVID-19 emergency. We can assist with masks, hand sanitizers, food, shelter, transportation, and more. Apply today.